You know what to do. Say it.
Uh, Jamie, pull that up.
No. What's up? What's,
Oh,
what's up, Sam? How we doing, dude?
oh, all good, all good. Ready
So
to start the week ahead,
it's officially Oktoberfest. What do you think?
dude. Oktoberfest is over.
Is it long gone?
Oh yeah, Oktoberfest is
Well,
in September. Everybody knows
Oktoberfest starts in August nowadays, dude.
that.
I actually think the last time that we recorded, we were talking about how it felt like everything is getting pumpkin way too quickly.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, yeah. I feel like if I started ranting about pumpkins, it would basically be a repeat of the last podcast. All the cinnamon, all the allspice. Uh, Yeah. You know what? I've actually been thinking. I, I've thought about going to Oktoberfest, but you know what's probably better? Prague. Prague.
Yes. I
Just
feel like
because.
objectively that's probably true. I feel like that's as close to certain as you
Just
can
because
get.
in the Czech Republic the beer flows like water, literally,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Pilsen and Prague are like a short train ride from each other.
Do you think that there's any truth to the notion that beers like Guinness or Heineken from like the factories or tap or whatever are better than getting any kind of draft Heineken or getting now. Granted, of course, if you have what do you call it, a keg that's been sitting there for 6 months, obviously it's not going to be as fresh. But um, in general, you think that like having Heineken from the Heineken factory, Guinness from the Guinness factory is any more other than
Oh,
placebo?
like at the factory. Uh,
Yeah, like I've
I
been to the Guinness factory in Dublin. It kind of just tasted like fresh Guinness, but like it didn't really like.
it didn't blow you away.
I
No,
had I had Guinness at a place here in South Florida, and they get a Guinness. I think a keg shipped. I think once a month or so, and it's constantly fresh, and it always tastes just as good as when I'm in Dublin.
sure, if you serve a lot of something, you have high turnover, and that obviously is gonna make sure you have fresh product. No, I mean in terms of going to a big brewery and drinking something fresh from the tank. Honestly, I like to think there is a difference. Like if you have a palate for it, then you will know. Would it ruin a bottle of Guinness that's been sitting on a liquor store shelf for 6 months, or a keg of Guinness that's been sitting on the tap in a small town dive bar for a couple months? No, I don't think so. Just because of the way those beers generally sit,
But you think
the
it does make a
popular
difference.
exports. No, it definitely makes a difference. It definitely makes a difference. I've had just because when you become hypersensitive and hyper aware, like even when it comes to the beers that you yourself are paying attention to in someone like a position as me, because I'm making it. Let's take Bifrost for example. I've had a bottle of Bifrost that was at its expiration date, and I've drank Bifrost fresh from the tank. There's definitely a difference. You good there, buddy?
I just think I just took a swig of seltzer fresh from a warm can, and it just completely overpowered me. Um, Bifrost is IPA.
No, it's a winter ale.
It's a winter ale.
I think I
So
brought
does
some home when we were living on 61st
yeah,
Street.
definitely. I recall. I even recall the can work, but the can art rather. But so winter. I know that IPAs. I was actually talking to a brewer about this last 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. Um, there's a notion of like greenness is what they call it. Like when it's a little too fresh. Like you have to give the hops a couple of days to mellow out. Does that also apply to Bifrost and old winter ales and stuff like that?
I've never heard of a beer that was put in a can or a keg, sent out the door under with a warning that you need to give it a few days in market before it actually gets tapped because otherwise it would be too fresh. If I'm
I've had
being
that
honest,
plenty actually with IPAs.
I've heard, honestly, I I have never heard that before.
So I
That's
think
really
that you should
interesting.
try. I think that what you should do is you should try to go to a brewery in Seattle that's relatively well known for their IPAs and buy a 4 pack or even
Yeah,
buy
I'm
two
sure
buy
I'm going to
two
be having
singles.
lots of trouble with that there.
Yeah, right. The easiest beer to find in the market now. And seriously, buy four. Find out like when they just like you check their Instagram, do the Facebook. You see when they put it out, and you go over. You have a can one, one can one. The day you get it, and then have a can 2 or 3 weeks later, and I guarantee you'll taste a pretty significant difference. And then
I
there's
know.
something called hot bite.
Oh,
You know
hop
what that is?
bite. I've heard of the term hop scratch. Maybe that's the same thing. We've had some problems with that with Hazy 96. Um, it's
It's when
interesting.
you accidentally leave the hops in for too long.
I never want to. Do you happen to know? Did these friends of yours? Did they happen to describe what this hot bite feels like or tastes like?
Well, it
Uh,
goes two ways. It goes two ways. So when an IPA is green, it means that it's just out of the keg, and there's something about like there's certain that I guess they just to let it sit for a couple of days or maybe a week, um, for full blending of the flavors is what they've recommended. But then there's hop bite, which is I think the typical time you hop a beer is I think 2 to 3 days, and then if you do more than that, then it kind of gets a little bit of that sharper hoppy taste at the end, uh, more like a bite of a hop, as opposed like as if you're biting into it, as opposed to just like kind of tasting it.
I see. Yeah, it's like a sensation at the back of your throat, like literally like kind of a scratchy feeling. I've heard of that. I've heard of that. That's pretty interesting. I've never heard of an IPA being too fresh.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There's a brewery near my parents in Rockland called District 96, and they're known for their incredibly juicy IPAs, very fruity, very juicy, very sweet, and their cans apparently are best consumed 2 weeks into purchasing them. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, 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 yeah. I've heard that. So then I found out recently, also in the same trip. I found out why. So I think I may have mentioned this story to you offhanded in the last conversation we had. I think, but I had a friend come and he was going to taste some of this stout barley wine blend, and he goes, "Oh, is this one of your beers that tastes like soy sauce?" And I mentioned that to a brewer who just was giving me a taste of his barrel aged 1 year anniversary stout, and I mentioned that story to him, and apparently he said that that beer that stouts, barrel aged stouts in particular, actually do take on a soy sauce type of profile if there's too much. If it's so when you stick the when you barrel age the beer, right, a little bit of it evaporates. In whiskey or bourbon they call it the angel share or whatever,
Right.
and
Right.
then there's oxygen that's in the barrel now between based on the amount of liquid that evaporated, and apparently, and what the brewers do is they're constantly topping it off in the barrel. This is what he said about these particular barrel aged stouts, and he said that if you don't keep on topping it out off, then there's too much air in the barrel, and then the first step is that it starts to taste like soy sauce, and the next step is that it starts getting vinegary. And he goes, that's how you know that a stout has been sitting in a barrel for too long without replenishing the actual liquid or base stout that they're putting in it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Barrel aging is such a weird dimension in its own, and I still don't really have much knowledge about it. I'll tell you a funny story. The barrel guy at Elysian, he was getting ready to do like transfer or do something with some sort of cider. It was red. It was like some sort of fruited cider. It was like a pinkish in color. I didn't know what was going on. No communications that arise from that department ever really reach us because it's just its own little world.
The barrel age
I
world.
the barrel aging world,
You should
and
get into it.
I no like it would be really cool. I if the from our barrel master, it's like if the main reason he's grumpy and he doesn't want to talk to you is because he had to come to work today, it's like how hard of a job can it be? This was back when I was on night shift, so it was like 3 in the morning or something like that. I walked to that part of the building because I think I was stacking malt for next week. I go to get some water from the tap room, and I see all these barrels lined up, and obviously something was going to be done with them tomorrow. It's real cool. And I noticed from the bungs, like a lot of foam was seeping out of them. The bungs were placed very very gingerly, very loosely on top, and you obviously had a lot of microbial action such that gas and foam was escaping,
Wow.
and that wasn't what bothered me. What really bothered me was it was summer then, and there was just the flies, like the horse flies and the fruit flies, were just congregating
No.
around this stuff spilling from the top, and I was just at such a loss at what to do. I thought I need to arrest the flow here. I need to make sure that there's enough of a seal here so that whatever pathogens or like whatever's on these bugs isn't getting into the beer, right?
Yeah.
So without even really asking anybody, I took it upon myself to find the nearest mallet and I pounded the bungs back in like until they were flush with the barrel.
Hmm.
And in my head, I knew I probably wasn't supposed to do that. They were probably like that for a reason. But it was just like it was one of those situations. It's like you can't do nothing, but there's nothing you can do. So it's just like, well, you do what you can,
Right.
and it's like at least I'm protecting the product from these bugs. I come into work the next night.
And everyone's fired on the on the
No, no.
brewing floor.
Fortunately not. Fortunately, it was just funnier than that. It was just, someone took a picture of my handiwork, and it was just like, whoever the fuck thought it would be a good idea to pound all these back in, we have no idea how to get them out, and blah, blah, blah. So I just pretended not to know. I was just like, oh my God.
That is
Oh my
so
God,
funny.
who would do that? Oh my
It's
God.
so funny, dude. You sabotage them, dude.
No, they
That's why
were
you're not. That's why you're not
fine.
barrel aging.
They were fine.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I've been always very, very, very. I haven't had them very often, but they've almost always been a hit. Are barrel aged sours. No,
Those are
not.
those are
Yeah.
pretty hit and miss for me. You remember, you were there. We went to Outlander Brewing. Oh, don't let me forget Outlander. I have something cool to share with you. But at Outlander Brewing, we went there during our Ballard crawl when we first moved there. Each of us got a flight,
Hmm.
and I forget whose flight it was, but somebody ordered an oak barrel aged sour as part of their flight.
I vaguely remember it because I
You
remember being
vaguely
impressed
remember
with
it,
that.
dude.
With
I
that,
will
it's
never
so
forget
pretentious.
that. That is the single worst beer. I took a sip of it, and I had to fight the urge to just do an actual spit take. It was the
uh,
single worst.
that's a shame.
But
That's
at
a
the same
shame.
time, I have had wood aged sours that were actually very good. So for me, they're hit and miss.
And I've had rum barrel aged sours, which were
Yeah,
also
dude,
delicious.
batch 3000 right here. What I'm having right now, that was aged in a rum barrel. That's why there's a big vanilla
Nice.
note. Bananas
Wow,
Foster
it's
with a big
probably
vanilla note.
awesome.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's a little
dude.
bit less boozy and a little bit less bourbony on the nose, I'm sure. Even on the
Yeah,
even in the profile.
absolutely.
It's not so syrupy, is it?
It's pretty syrupy, dude. It's pretty syrupy. Big alcohol, big everything. Big banana, big rum, big vanilla. It's big everything. This stuff is a meal and a half right here.
Wow, I love it. Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, I could only deduce, but this place in Fort Lauderdale, Uncommon Pats, they put their calories per pour on the tap list next to the beers,
What a terrible
and
business model.
and, and a barrel aged stout is like I guess like the guy makes real sweet dessert style stouts, you know,
Sure,
like
sure.
and then he has other ones. He goes heavy on like vanilla. or he makes old school Russian stouts too, which are good. But like his sweet ones are like 450 calories for a 4 ounce pour. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, like it's crazy.
Yeah, man.
But
You
tell me
know,
what you're gonna
they,
you remember
they,
about
they
the what do you
say,
call it, the other brewery?
oh, Outlander.
Yes,
One of my good friends and former Elysian coworkers is now the brewmaster at Outlander,
nice.
and
Did you make
and I
recommendations to make a better sour?
no, 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 no. He's got his own ideas. He's just starting to get his beers into the rotation. I think next week, this time next week, on Sunday, I'm going to be heading over there, and I think
Nice.
it's not even going to be anything official. Like we'll have some beers, we'll catch up, and we'll probably like just
Make a
not
collaboration, dude.
not even
Do a
like not even
collab.
collaborate. Like I'd love to collaborate, like do a full on collaboration. But even just sitting down and throwing ideas past each other, like I can't wait. I
That's gonna
can't
be
wait.
great, dude.
I've never set foot in Outlander ever since the oak barrel sour incident, but now I can't wait to go back.
Dude, that's gonna be great, man. I'm so excited for you. It's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be fantastic.
It's so cool. It's so great by the way, this is now where you start making these brewery connections. You know, I mean, when you have friends, because the brewery world is small and people tend to stick to it. You know, and you know, and then when people go, you know, so people stay in the beer world, but they're not going to necessarily always be at the same brewery, and that's when you got, keep up those relationships, and you really end up having you know, a lot of you know good friends at different places. You got a lot of diversity, and you could really branch out. It's really cool. I mean, I know
Absolutely.
that the local brewery here, my one of my favorite places, Orchestrated Minds, is you know, the guy's name, the owner and head and brewer's name is Davey. Great dude, and an enormous part of his success, and he's been pretty successful as far as branding, reputation, beer, actual quality of beer, is he just keeps up with all the local, you know, all the breweries around the country. He goes to every event, and you know, and he has all his friends from this event that he, you know, he may have met once or twice. He invited them out for a collaboration, come down to South Florida, have a good time, and they've always come. And now he really he makes some of the he makes some what do you call collaborations with some of the best breweries in the country. You know, and it just comes from just keeping up with people. You know, it's all networking. It's crazy.
One of the things that I'm really keen to go to next year is the Great American Beer Festival. It happens in Denver, Colorado, and
Nice.
our guy, our taproom guy, he went this year, and he was talking it up to me. And he was saying all about how cool it is in general, but he talked about the connections a lot, like the networking opportunities, and it sounded kind of funny. Like I'd like to do it. I picture it as I picture it as awkward and weird and kind of nerdy, where like it's kind of like a job fair where people are awkwardly exchanging names and saying what they do and like just
Yeah,
bullshit
but that's not
elevator
bad. It's a
talk.
bunch of guys
But
chasing
but
beers
but
together.
but everybody's intoxicated.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great time, dude. You're gonna have a blast there.
Oh yeah, no no no.
I've only gone to one or two. Most of these beer festival stuff usually happen on Saturdays. Um, so I haven't gone to most of them, but the couple of that I've been to at different times of the year, um, they've been a blast. They've been so much fun. Like the people of these breweries are generous, and a lot of times, you know, the owners themselves come and they're just really down to earth and really nice. And I've always had just very, very pleasant experiences with people in the brewing world overall. Like I really have. And it's really wide spectrum of people too. It's really cool. I'm actually, by the way, I'm one day into. I'm going. I'm going to be alcohol free until Thanksgiving. So until about your birthday, and then
Okay.
yeah, I realized I come to the realization that I have not been. I haven't gone a month without drinking alcohol since I graduated high school, and I was thinking to myself that most of my drinking is generally just social anyway. And, you know, I don't really, at this point, like, it's kind of more something for me to just do with myself. And I feel like that's a bad excuse to drink. So I wanted to see if I could give myself this break and see how it'll go. But yeah, dude, I don't remember the last time I went a month without drinking alcohol. Do you?
There have been periods where I've gone a few weeks without drinking, like for various reasons. But yeah, no, I think at this point, like ever since when you're at a period like at this point in our lives, when we've been drinking for yeah, around like let's call it a decade. Between us, each of us is about a decade of drinking. Uh, you start to realize that like there's a real necessity to at least keep something in check, to take stock, to not let yourself be complacent around just the fact that alcohol's always there, you can always get it. It's always it's always like right there in your kitchen or like in close reach or whatever. So it's good to like whether you abstain, whether you go a few weeks or a month, or pledge yourself not to drink in a certain situation. Um, yeah, no, it's absolutely necessary to just kind of be mindful and just never get complacent.
Dude, that's how I
Cause
know I'm getting old. It's because I'm measuring all the fun things I do with myself now, and I'm turning them into like I'm like have to like give myself little bits of what I enjoy at a time, and like that's it, you know, and like
yeah, you have to tax yourself.
it's crazy. It's not fun, dude. I feel like I'm 50. Excuse me. I feel like
Well,
I'm
when
50. I was always talking about how I'm an adult, dude. The amount of beer that we used to drink in our house makes me nauseous to think about right now, dude. To think about how regularly we would do power hours or, and then like shake it off the next morning with another IPA,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
like,
right, exactly. We had the amount of liquor we had in our pantry. I would just, role play as Jim Leahy from Trailer Park Boys. Yeah, no, dude, it was crazy.
yeah. I
It's-
mean, so obviously so I'm kind of torn because I feel like people say you can't go like that forever, but I know a lot of people that have gone like that for forever,
well, forever just means
until
until
you're
whenever
dead.
they're until you're dead. Which if you go heavy on the alcohol, statistically speaking, is not that long. Uh, then again, I
Yeah,
do.
but I know plenty. I could probably think in my immediate family, five people, my immediate family that lived well over 85 years that drank a lot.
It's a gamble. It's definitely a little bit of a gamble. It's a dangerous gamble,
It is a
especially
dangerous gamble.
not even for dying young, but like mostly I think for severely impacting the quality of life for the last 10 years. I think
Ooh, yeah.
that's one of the main things. Because no, I mean, like you definitely you hear about, you hear about some grandma out in the Midwest who has a diet of nothing but red meat, cigarettes, Dr. Pepper, and she drinks like a fish, and she died comfortably in her sleep at age 105.
Yeah,
You,
God
you, you
bless.
definitely you definitely hear of stories like that, and you get a little bit jealous. What with especially we with me with my Ashkenazi genes over here, but it's you got to play the numbers, just be smart, but at the same time, I don't know.
But I do it about everything. I do about eating. I do
You,
it about working out. Like if my friends call me, they're like, it's Sunday morning. They call me, hey, you want to play basketball? I'm like, I want to play basketball because I love the sport and I love the game. But I also know that if I play basketball, I'm not going to go for a jog later. I know that a jog is a better workout. So I don't jog. Like, who the heck? Like, I should take 2 showers. Like, what the heck do I complain? Like, what am I complaining about? Like, what am I trying to like take stock of like which exercise is going to be a more efficient exercise? Like, I'm 28 years old. I can have fun, but I feel like
right.
all my decisions are just based on like what's the most way to get the most out of anything that I do at any given time.
Yeah, that's probably not the best way to think about it. But to be honest, I think to live as long a life as you can with the amount of control that you have over it, if you're not, if the reason you don't play basketball with your friends is because you wanted to jog instead rather than I don't want to play basketball because I want to drink half a bottle of bourbon. Uh, I mean, how bad can you really be doing?
No, well, yes, of course, but it's just I think it's just the mentality. I think it's the mentality of life is about trying to get the maximum value and not just enjoying yourself, and I think that that's a shift into an adult mindset that I didn't have for a long time, you know. Like I used to look at things like what will I enjoy, and then, you know, if the answer is this and this, then I'd go ahead and do that. And if the answer is not this, then I wouldn't do that. And like that's pretty much the end of it. And I'm pretty good at avoiding things that I actively dislike, or people or conversations or anything like that. I'm pretty good at it, and I've managed to make my way through almost 3 years, I guess, into my third year of teaching now, without any feedback. I went to one English class, English, what do you call it? Not section, but department meetings. And I was like, this is the biggest waste of my life. I'm not doing this ever again. And I just haven't gone back. And like, it hasn't affected my life at all. Like, it's been great. So, I mean, overall, like living like that's been pretty good. But I just feel more like an adult than ever before, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to consider the idea that you know one of the main things of adulthood is that it's not that you can't have fun anymore. It's just that you can't think of pursuing fun the way you did when you were younger.
Yes,
If
yes,
you
yes. That's such a good
if
way of
you
putting it.
if you spent your time worrying about, it's like, oh dude, I'm not having enough fun, I'm not enjoying myself enough, like you're gonna set yourself up pretty poorly in life.
No,
um
I have fun. You know me, dude. I don't not have fun.
no, of course it doesn't mean that as an adult you'll never have fun again. Like obviously it's not like you'll never be happy again. It's the main thing I think is just that to be comfortable with the level of stress that you have and that you know what you have to do. Fun will come in bits and pieces spontaneously, like through various times and various situations that you're bound to come across. Um, and I think as long as you kind of have that mindset that fun is going to be passive rather than something that you have time to actively seek, like when you were a
Yeah,
child.
yeah. And also,
I
yeah.
think
Go
yeah,
ahead.
I think
Go
that's the
ahead,
main
please.
thing. No. I mean that's really all I had to say.
Yeah, I think you're right, because if you think about the type of fun that you talk about in like a younger sense, it's a kind of fun that's really all encompassing, like it engulfs your entire being. Like when we were like having fun if when we had even our thing like our beer Olympics, or if or one of our Shabbos afternoon binges that we'd go on, or Saturday night power hours, or whatever. Like we weren't beholden to anyone or anything, and like what we were doing in that moment was just like our entire existence, and
Exactly.
um and yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that, I think, because I have a lot of fun and I have a lot of responsibilities at the same time, and they kind of have to they have to exist in the same world. Otherwise, I'm a pretty shitty dad, or I'm a pretty boring guy. Like they have to be, or husband, and or homeowner, or anything. I'm a pretty shitty responsible person, or I'm a really immature dude. Um, and I think I actually I know a couple of people. It's really sad actually to watch, but I know a couple of people who they got married and they have a kid or two, and their entire all they want is they just want to like take the burden of their responsibilities off their shoulders, and just be all in that fun, like a kid again. And it's so devastating to their families, and it's so devastating as like adults. It's crazy.
It sucks that there's a real biological necessity and physiological necessity to starting a family and having kids when you're still, like when you're young. Like not even when you're 35, it's like what do you and you don't have that all. It's like what are you doing? The fact that you have that, but when it comes to like the maturity it takes to do what you're saying, the way things are done, it's like it's like oh you'll eventually you'll mature, and I'm sure that's the case, but
Yeah, but how long
I
do
mean
your wife and
it's
kids
a
have to suffer until then?
right exactly. It's like you can't uh, after a certain point you can't just want to get high anymore if you want to be a person.
Yeah, yeah,
If you want to
yeah.
be a person, you can't just want to get
I'm
high
not
all
talking
the
about,
time.
dude. I'm not talking about getting high. I'm talking about going
Getting
out and
high, getting drunk,
clubbing,
it doesn't
partying. Like
playing video games, it doesn't matter. Just like that mindset where it's all where where the goal is self gratification.
right, right. It's
You know
also
what I
very interesting,
mean?
by the way, that you mentioned because I actually I feel I don't 100% agree with what you said earlier
Hello?
about like, by the time hello, can you hear me?
Something go wrong there?
Not as far as I know. Where'd I cut out?
Hold on a second. Oh, not sure what happened there. You there,
All good?
Effie?
I'm here. Can
Eff-
you hear me?
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're there.
Awesome. Where'd I lose you, dude?
Uh, just after I got done saying that, the main thing can't be self gratification.
Yeah, yeah. So the only thing I would disagree with just, and I'm just nitpicking now, but I think it's still important, is I don't think that 30 that there's any arbitrary age that anyone should be doing anything, like, being a husband or being a father necessarily, right? Because I think that a lot of times it's out of our control as to when we get to meet the people that we should meet or whatever life scenarios we have or anything like that. But I think that the difference for what would make a successful journey into responsibility and adulthood and fatherhood and husbandhood is to not give your give yourself a set X amount of time to do something, but to just prepare yourself so that whenever it does come around, it could be 20, it could be 25, it could be 35, it could be 50, whenever it does come around, that you're going to be as ready for it as you could possibly be as a person, as opposed to looking at it like, and I'm not saying that you are, but I think a lot of people do, where they look at different points of their lives. I know I have a friend that was dating a girl, they broke up, and they were dating, and they broke up, and then and they broke up for good, and he reached a certain age, whatever arbitrary age that he felt was like this was like he was already getting old, 25, 30, 35, and he and in his desperation he actually went back to the girl and ended up they ended up back together, but it was coming from a place of like I have like there's a time like there's a time that I want to be married by, and there's a time I want kids by, and without really thinking as to why he had that notion in his head, and it wasn't about like who how can I be ready to be the best husband or father by the time I meet the person that's my future spouse. Um, Instead of that, it's like, okay, well, clock's ticking and I got to get moving. So I may as well do this now, and who's there for me to line up, and like, that's kind of the attitude that I feel like a lot of people have when they're stuck with a particular age in mind or number in mind.
Well, when it comes to these things, youth definitely has a premium to it. Starting a family, like these sort of milestones in maturity. Um, there's definitely a premium to doing it, on the younger side. And I hear what you're saying. Like, it's it's probably not the best strategy, the best mindset to ground yourself in arbitrary dates. Like, by this age I have to have this, and by this age I have to have X, Y, and Z. I think I think the reason behind that thought is there's definitely a validity to it, but mostly just because if you spend your entire youth like when when you wake up and you're 40 and you haven't done any of these things,
Well, yeah, you gotta
you're
have
gonna
the
be
goals in mind.
you're gonna yeah you're gonna be in big trouble. So like no,
Right.
I think it's like a happy medium between the two. Like you don't want to put pressure on yourself with hard dates necessarily.
Yeah, but
Uh,
you want to be ready for it. You want to prepare yourself for it for whenever it would
Absolutely,
happen. Yeah, totally.
absolutely.
I'm not saying. Yeah, well, right. So I mean, this kind of. I came to this realization myself because I don't know. I was almost 26 when I got married. You know, and at 23 or 24, and I was living in Seattle, and I was dating someone pretty seriously. Um, you know, and we broke up, and I was like, oh man, like, there we go again. You know, now I'm gonna be old. All my friends are married. And I'm like, what? Like, dude, I can't do that to myself. And then I was like, you know what? I was like, I don't know when I'm gonna get married. I was like, I'll get married. I'll be 30. I'll be 35. I was like, I just know that like I'll just spend the time between now and then just working on myself and working on being ready to be a husband. At the end of the day, like, I think it's that you know, I know a lot of people that got married younger and they didn't. I was very thoughtful about a lot. Everyone in the Jewish circle, at least, says that the first year of marriage is the hardest year, um, and for a number of reasons. You know, some of them are pretty obvious, but my first year being married was much, much easier than if I was got married, you know, at 22 or 23. You know, I mean, I was much more mellow. I was a lot more mature. I was a lot more, you know, I was a lot more healthy about letting other people be themselves and giving them their own space to be themselves, which would have been a disaster. You know, especially that first year, you're kind of learning like how to live with someone and what the bounds and limits of your relationships are. And if I didn't have that, if I wasn't almost 26 and had gone through 3 or 4 serious relationships, you know, the first couple of years of my marriage would have been miserable. It really would have been hard, but you know, I had to do a lot of work to prepare myself for whatever it was going to be eventually. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
and same goes for fatherhood. I was expecting it to be the hard. I was expecting it to be one of the hardest things ever. You know, and I mean, I'm only, you know, almost 2 years. I'm only a year and a half, 2 years into it, but I mean, it one of the things when Ari asked me a couple months after Shua was born, Ari was like, "So, what's the most surprising part about being a dad to you, or what's like the most like, you know, unusual? Like, what's most exceptional that you would say?" And I was like, honestly, I was like, I thought that I would be miserable, and I'm like, I'm always tired, but I'm not miserable. Like I'm happy to I'm like being responsible, like having a responsibility was enormously gratifying, and so, you know, and even though it wasn't fun, you know, there was like you did feel extremely fulfilled and productive, you know, just to know that you're being a good dad, you know, and you're helping you know start to set a kid like the very fundamental and crucial years for a kid, you know, just to have to feel like there's a home of nurturing and maturity and love, and you know, and you know, subconsciously, you know, even he's not going to remember any of this, but you know, he'll grow up with this confidence of someone that grew up in a world where both his parents were very invested, you know.
That's going to be very important when you get to the point where you don't like where you don't like your offspring.
Yeah, yeah, that I hope so, and I'm sure
And,
it's gonna happen, dude. Because I went through I went through points where I hated all my siblings pretty deeply. So you know,
I was just talking to a mutual friend of ours here in Seattle, and one of the things he said to me in confidence was, "Dude, you have no idea how much I want to punt them sometimes."
yeah, dude, dude, I have a friend. He's so funny. He came up to me. This guy is hysterical, and he goes, "My kid just learned how to ask me where I'm going," and I'm like,
Oh my-
"Okay," and he goes, it's the most fucking annoying thing in the entire world. You know, he's like, where are you going? I'm like, the bathroom. He's like, can I come? I'm like, no. He goes, where are you going? I'm going to work. Can I come? No. He's where you going? I'm going to Home Depot. Can I come? No. Why? Because you're annoying as shit. That's why. And he's like, and like he set the whole thing up. Like he gave like four different examples of places that his son keeps on asking him to go. And he's like, because you're annoying as shit. That's why I don't want to deal with you anymore. But he loves him, you know. And it's just like, yeah, I can imagine, dude. Dude, my dad and I have had, you know, especially in recent years, we've had a lot of, you know, not too terrible, but a lot of work conflicts. Um, and that's that. You know, the lines definitely got a little complicated when it came to father versus boss figure. You know, and for both of us, I think it's you know, I mean that was it took some serious maneuvering and some serious work.
Oh, sure. No,
You know,
I can only imagine.
oh boy, especially my dad, right, Sam?
He's probably sat there wondering when I'm gonna come fix his TV.
That's right. He's still hanging. My mom's begging him to throw him out, and he's hanging on to it, hoping they're going to come from Seattle and save the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Little does he know, dude. So, did you listen to Trump on Rogan? What are your thoughts?
um, I think
Because that's
optically,
initially why I texted you.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. I think, I think it. I can't really think of ways in which this doesn't work out optically for the campaign because it's not just Trump on Rogan. It's his other podcast appearances.
Yeah, Theo Vaughn was a big one.
JD Vance going on a Tim Dillon's podcast.
Oh man, did you listen to that,
I listened to that as well.
dude?
Uh,
Wasn't it great?
it was fantastic. It was optically it was great. Uh, Trump just kind of backing away from campaign talk for a minute. And the thing that was also great about the JD Vance podcast, he there was one moment in particular that I really fixate on. He gave like when things kind of got into the reasons that people are dissatisfied with the status quo and disaffected with the establishment of
Hmm.
people that grew up in an era where grew up in a unipolar world where America wasn't just the only superpower, but when you know when America said something you had to listen to, and you know
Hmm.
they just can't come to grips with the fact that that world doesn't exist anymore. Um, those were really great, and I think JD Vance gave the single most concise and digestible uh, and easily accessible explanation of what the deep state is that I've ever heard.
Yes,
I
dude.
would
He's he's so freaking articulate. He's so good.
I wouldn't even have expected Rand Paul to give an explanation like that. And Rand Paul is like one of the best populist politicians there are. Um, and that's important because it's a big issue. But like whenever you words like that are preemptively sensationalized. It's like whenever you say the term deep state, people automatically
Yeah.
assume that you're a big conspiracy theorist. That really opened the door. And like one of the main comments that I was seeing over and over again in the comments of both in the things below both of these podcasts was the mainstream media is officially dead.
Yeah.
That
Dude, you know how many views the Rogan episode got? Uh,
oh man, I don't even
in
know what it is
24
right
hours.
now. In
In the first
24
24
hours,
hours,
oh god, it must have been like what, 2 million, something like that.
I think I'm gonna look it up just to double check. I believe I read today 26 million views.
26 million views in the first 24
24
hours.
hours, yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Hang
I wonder
on. Yeah. 26 million, according to Newsweek, Joe Rogan's Donald Trump episode racks up 26 million views in 24 hours.
damn, I kind of want to look it up now because I wonder what it is now. Let me see.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they publish those stats, but dude, 26 million is
Cuz
bigger than a majority. Because if you think about it, it's bigger than majority of movie theater openings. Movie theater like theatrical releases for opening weekends. because
And I
you're not
think
paying, you're paying free. It's just a matter of downloads, you know. So if an office, if a box office opens to $100 million, that means that everyone's averaging maybe $10 or $15 a movie ticket, right? So you do 100 million divided by $15 that the movie tickets cost, right? And you get a couple million, 10 million, 15 million people went to the movie for the opening weekend. This is 26 million people downloaded it, dude. It's crazy.
that's downloads off of Spotify.
Yeah, listens on well, no, across all platforms, I think.
Across all platforms. Okay. So then it's probably much bigger now because I'm looking at YouTube right now and it's 32 million views just on the podcast uploaded to YouTube. So
That's
across
crazy.
all platforms, it's got to be approaching 50 million interactions.
Yeah. 50 million people. When's the last time that a mainstream news network had 50 million viewers on any segment?
Probably, I mean, adjusting for population, the rate of population increase, I can only think of probably the JFK assassination and the moon landing.
Maybe 9/11.
Probably 9/11. Yeah. That was probably the last time it even came close.
Yeah, right? I don't maybe do you think throughout COVID at any point that there's any particular part that had over 50 million people listening,
Oh
listening in?
man, I don't think so. I
50
don't even
million is a
think with
lot of
COVID.
people.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
just a single broadcasting
Event.
event.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's got to be 9/11. It's got I think that's it. I can't imagine. But what do you think? Did you listen to the whole Trump thing, or just bits and pieces?
I skipped the last half hour or so. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, no, it was definitely good because people are used to the sort of things he talks about when he campaigns, and they definitely got into that. But I think the way that the Joe Rogan experience kind of does things is kind of a free form conversation, and it definitely did that because there was a big tangent, not even a tangent, it was a whole like separate conversation with the whole thing where they just went off into UFC fighting.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. They love that.
so optically, I mean, I think for anybody who is just sort of on the fence, not even the sense that they believe like the tired narratives that are almost 10 years old now about him being some,
Hitler.
mastermind evil dictator who wants to upend the Constitution, just to see him in a human context when
Yeah,
he
it's
isn't
nice.
being cut off, I think, the thing is, dude, in the wake of things, I mean, I think like my formal prediction, like obviously I give Trump the advantage, but let's assume like it goes that way
I don't know how. I don't
and
know
he
how it could be
wins.
close. I don't know how it could be even close. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me that there's enough people, unless I'm really just in a giant. And I only really acknowledged to myself even that I was going to support Trump after Tulsi, RFK, and Elon, all within like a month or so of each other, endorsed him. Because to me that showed that was more of a unity anti-authoritarian and establishment party rather than just another Trump presidency. I didn't care to vote for the name Trump, but I did care for everything that he seems to be running on, and the ideas that people across both aisles are getting behind. I think that's what made it. I think I don't even know how anyone can. I don't understand how it's going to be even close. I really don't.
Um, yeah, no, my big thing is like assuming that Trump wins. In the wake of it, in the wake of the election, I think what's going to be difficult is if I were asked the question, so what was the main thing? Like, what was the number one reason that Trump won? If you could pick one thing that happened that didn't happen, what would be the one thing that would have most that would have most jeopardized Trump's campaign?
I think.
I
What do you
can't think
think?
of anything. I That's
No,
it. I
so I
literally
think.
I literally cannot think of anything between the legal persecution, the assassination attempts, the just the
The
broad
RFK
sweeping
endorsement was
optics,
big.
the RFK endorsement, the defection of multiple Democrats, like from the Democratic Party, like not to mention like Tulsi Gabbard is just one of is one of several.
I know, but
I
she's so good. Like she's a politician that you could that I feel like I could support. I mean, I hope I could support in the long term, in the long run. You know that like she's so eloquent and intelligent and has her head on straight in a way that like assuming that these are continue to be her beliefs, like whatever party she runs from is going to be better. Like, our country's going to be better off with her in office. You know, like I really feel that. Not in office, in politics. I feel that way really strongly. You know,
Yeah, I hope that I'm definitely willing to believe that Tulsi Gabbard's change of heart is genuine. I just the thing that bothers me is that a lot of people just like trust that she's this big populist figure now. Then she's like right of center. I mean, if you look at her career as a politician from Hawaii, she's been very, very hard left and authoritarian and statist on a lot of issues. She was a big
yeah, but
anti.
then she had a big disillusionment. Like, that was the whole thing. She had this massive disillusionment with
I
the military and
definitely,
with Hillary.
I definitely get the disillusionment. I get that she was kind of tossed to the curb by her own party for daring to speak out of turn. And again, like I said, I'm willing to believe that her change of heart is genuine. I think I need a little bit more time. If Trump puts her if she has an active role in his administration, uh, I would feel comfortable if it were more mine. Like I don't want her to be brushed to the side, but I want to give her an opportunity to prove herself and that she's genuine. But I don't know. I need a little bit more time to trust her. But that's just me.
Yeah, yeah. I guess we'll see. I mean, what it really felt, what the last, I don't know. I really, I don't know what it is, and maybe I'm imagining it. Maybe I'm being, but I don't think I am. It feels like, in the last 6 months, or maybe even 3 months, maybe just 3 months. It feels like an enormous, like blanket of suppression of thoughts and ideas and the status quo has like been just yanked off of America. You know, a suppression of ideas, a suppression of a perspective, the need that I feel a lot of people used to have to self censor, and there's been an enormous just flashback and then in the last couple of months just absolute unwillingness to go along with that self-censorship. It just feels like that's in the air right now. Like it just feels like like there's just more it feels like we're more free or less afraid maybe of the establishment than I think that people have been in general in probably 10, 15 years.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I would say
Do you understand what I'm saying? Does that like
I,
speak to you at all?
absolutely. I look at polls, but I mean the the thing is, when I really like get a good idea of who I think is going to win president, and very rarely have I been wrong. I'm only 30 years old, mind you, but I've never been wrong so far,
Really?
and and I don't read polls to a point where like I'm not a statistician. I don't read polls like in a sense that I have a lot of familiarity with the math that goes on. Uh, I look at aggregates. I look at general trajectories. In terms of who I think is going to be president, the main thing that I go off of is the zeitgeist. What is the general feeling in the air? Is it more
Yeah.
towards candidate X or candidate Y? Even back in 2008, I was in 8th grade. Like every 8th grader is a dumbass. And even if you were that young, you could tell Barack Obama. There was just no question
Yeah.
Barack Obama was
Yeah.
going would win. Even in
Right.
2012, the energy wasn't quite there as much as
Yeah,
it
there's a
was 4 years
buzz.
ago.
There's a
From that point,
buzz. It's
there's a
crazy.
buzz in the air. Like still,
Yeah.
you can just sort of tell if you tap into it, and
I didn't feel
especially
that buzz 2020. Did you?
2020, it wasn't there.
I
2020
didn't
wasn't
feel
there,
that.
and it
I
was
also didn't feel the buzz 2016, by the way, because
uh,
I really thought that Hillary was going to win, and when I went to bed at probably 10:30, 11 p.m., piss drunk with Ben and Zach and Eli, and um, and I went to bed, and I remember I was like, well, our next president's going to be Hillary Clinton. And then I remember thinking, and then I woke up to pee at like 3:30, and I checked my phone, and I got a notification that like Trump pulled a stunner. But I think that I I, I don't think there was real like it was almost like there may have been a little bit of an underdog buzz, but like not like that the zeitgeist was. It was just
underdog buzz is a great way to say it, because back in 2016, I remember like looking at everything stacked the way it was. I remember exactly what you feel. I remember thinking to myself, if I were a betting man, I would say Hillary Clinton is going to win, but I see all the certainty saying like, "Oh yeah,
yeah.
there's no question." And I remember thinking to myself, I don't know, man. I don't know. I
Right, like it's not like you're not expecting it, but you wouldn't be surprised if, you know,
and
I would be.
because of that, I said, yeah, I don't know. The polls all say Hillary. You know, New York Times has a 95% chance that Hillary Clinton's going to win. I say, I don't know, man. I think there's a 55-45 chance that Trump wins. I think
That's what you thought the whole time. You
that's
thought that
that's what I
2016.
not the whole time, not the whole, definitely not the whole time. In the last 2 weeks before that election, I remember noticing there's definitely a shift in the air, and I thought there was a really good chance that Trump might have been able to pull it off. And yeah, I mean, obviously the rest is history. I was
Yeah.
surprised. I wasn't like, "Oh man, it looks like I'm good at this." I was like, "Wait, what?" What do you mean I was right? I can't be right. I'm
It's so
only
funny.
how old? Oh
I
god,
but
I don't.
I don't feel but I don't feel I haven't felt in my guts for probably 2 months. I haven't felt any concern about Kamala Harris. I really have. I never thought that like Trump didn't have it. I thought there were times where he had to take it more seriously to show like just to secure it and just to not let anything get out of hand. And I think he did. And and again, that's the assassination attempts, which probably catapulted the national perspective of him. Just to another level. And like the other thing, I wasn't absolutely crazy about his interview with Rogan. I thought that he had incredible acuity for an 80-year-old because they did talk for 3 hours, and I know very few 80-year-olds that could talk for 3 hours.
Yeah,
But I wasn't super impressed with the content either. Although he definitely got the lingo right and he definitely learned the terminology and the language that speaks to a lot of moderates and a lot of independents and a lot of people that anti-establishment people that but in a very different way. He's using more concepts and at the beginning, what people thought was funny about him was he had these outlandish ideas and he'd present them childishly and immaturely. And now, and then he won, but it made him hated because he was childish and immature. Now he's not having those kind of like he's not acting like that again. Like I mean, he's not behaving like that. Now he's just behaving like an old man that just sees something wrong and is trying to fix it. But yeah,
I think there's a good balance between him being uh him conveying an aura of an experienced politician, in the sense that he knows what he has to do. He's not a political neophyte anymore as he was in 2016, but at the same time, he's definitely not he's not cut from the same cloth as your standard neocon, neoliberal political class as it exists that everybody hates. He's
Yeah.
still he's into UFC. He's like,
But he's
I
80,
did
dude.
that, and he's 80. And he's like, oh, it's fantastic. I didn't know anything about these podcasts, but my son Barrett, he's like, no, you have to go on these podcasts.
He's
You have
6'3",
to
by
go.
the way.
You have to go on these
Whatever, 6'9".
podcasts, and I did it. And it's like, it's so surreal. It's just like the memes that are coming up from this are like could not get any stranger than reality. That's the
Yes, but
main.
right. I was gonna say, by the way, this is the exact moment that we were talking about last time, where like memes will ruin like the profundity of a moment. I think that this is it's such a profound. I saw a great meme on speaking of memes on it wasn't even a meme. It was just a post on Twitter, and it was like, can you imagine if you told us 15 years ago that a comedian, Fear Factor host Joe Rogan, hosting The Apprentice Donald Trump would be the most important political conversation to happen in 4 years or 8 years or something crazy like that, and like it is, dude. Like 32 million views on YouTube. It came up on Friday. It's Sunday. You
Yeah,
know, 50 million people minimum must have, most likely, 50 million people must have listened to that podcast, which means that there's very few people that will go, I'm absolutely voting for Kamala. I'm a never Trumper, but I'm going to listen to Trump talk on Rogan. Like that means that a huge population is even interested enough to go to YouTube or go to Spotify and click play, and listen for a significant amount of time because it takes time for it. It's not. I don't think they're based on impressions. I think you have to listen to a certain amount of the episode for it to be considered played. So they had to listen to to at least a portion of it. That's 50 million people just in the last day, in the last weekend. I mean,
right, right. Yeah, it's hard to really put into terms uh, just how significant it is because nothing like the political landscape has not been impacted by these sorts of circumstances beforehand, not or not in this
yeah, no, but
way,
it's new history. It's
which
history.
really is. Um, I mean, when you think about it, it's like that's not really. It's not like that's a especially intelligent observation, but the thing about that makes it seem, I think so surreal is just that when you realize that you are living within the paradigm shift.
Yes, that's
Everybody,
cool. It's
we people, I think people tend to want to see history as something that is outside, not even as something that's behind you, but something that's outside of yourself,
yeah,
which is why it's that whole that backhanded sort of tongue in cheek, like, oh, what's the worst thing you could ever say to someone? It's like, uh, may you live in interesting times, because
right.
people there's a there's a fear associated with living. You are living within a moment in history, even if you have nothing to do with it. Like
Yeah, because it's got to be very
us two.
consequential for it to be remembered forever.
Right, and we're just two schmucks talking about it on a on a phone call.
Yeah.
In terms of how we experience history, like most people don't. The way history reads versus the way history happens, people don't want to realize it. People don't want to have anything to do with it,
Yeah, but
but it
even these
is.
two schmucks
Even even
know that
even
we're
even
experiencing this, dude.
right, even within our mundane lives, that is still the case.
Yeah, but that's amazing. Our lives, our mundane lives, like there's something about our conscious, about our awareness and our consciousness that says your mundane life is participating in something enormous, and like that's so cool. I think it really is. I mean, it's like the first people that would see the first time a president would speak on television as opposed to over the radio, or on the radio as opposed to having to go to to a rally or a demonstration or something like that. Like you had all these moments. I think like this new medium is not going anywhere, and it's already become so huge that it has to be the way of the future. Like this will be the first time. But I bet, I mean, in 4 years from now, Joe Rogan and all the comedians and Lex Friedman and Andrew Huberman and all these other guys are all going to have every single candidate on their platform for a long form conversation for the public to get to know who they are. And they're going to get, you know, 10, 20, 50 million views. And that's going to be, and like, and we'll be like, I remember the first time that ever happened was Joe Rogan talking to, talking to Donald Trump after he was attempted to be assassinated.
It's
And
crazy. It's crazy to think that this is
this is what that is.
this is the pivotal moment for this to be the new status quo. And I can't help but wonder. I think one of the other things that's pretty interesting is you can't help but wonder at some point in the future, it's inevitable, this format is going to be old and stale and
Yes,
obsolete and
sure.
replaced by something else.
What do you
And the
think
fact
it'll
that you
be?
can't.
What do you think the next thing is?
Oh, dude, I can't even
Do you think it's like
imagine.
Neuralink kind of thing? Do you think it's like messages will just get like displayed into our heads or whatever?
Uh, in terms of.
Or you think that it's going to be like more VR or AR or whatever it is, whatever they're calling it, augmented reality or whatever, where it's kind of all going to be appearing immediately in front of you in your setting where you are, and you could just kind of like tune into it like as part of your current experience.
I don't think I'm not so sure, or at the very least, I can't imagine that in terms of how we sensorily experience these things. I don't think the experience itself is going to change in a fundamental way. Like, maybe you'll have, like, the way that images are projected into space, or like you said, Neuralink and all that. But I think it'll be where the information comes from. Like now,
Oh,
like the paradigm shift is,
oh yeah.
people get informations from multi-billion-dollar corporations whose whole business is entertainment and information, versus now the paradigm has shifted towards these things in their
The guys at
like the way they're really.
Roku and Me Undies are sponsoring, you know.
Right, yeah, to these guys, these, like, single individuals who have built uh this entire empire that
Well, they're
centers around.
media empires. That's it's essentially what they are. They literally turned into like I mean they're just they're just lower budget, but a lot of these guys aren't even lower budget. I mean these guys, I mean I think Rogan specifically chooses to only have two or three people on his team, but there are plenty of like there's a podcasting industry where there'll be a host and then they'll like give people like I think there's one called the Ringer and they have individual like they hire individual people to do their own shows under the Ringer name, right? So the Ringer is the town, or the Ringer is movie, whatever it is, or the Ringer is politics, and and they essentially turn themselves into a podcast television station.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, the difference between a
But they're
corporate.
still the same media studio. I mean, it's just a shift in the platform. Just like cabs are still cabs, but they're just called Ubers now.
Right, right. So, yeah, no, I don't. It's hard to imagine what the change will be, especially when it's very likely that the change, taken holistically, it's not like you're absorbing information in a whole different way. It's just the source that it's coming from is fundamentally different.
Well, I think you're also consuming it differently because most of these things, like you
Well,
don't
yeah.
have three hour.
Instead of a 10-minute CNN segment where they have a bunch of talking heads gathered to pontificate about some subject and some candidates prospects in Pennsylvania, you have long form conversations. That's the main difference in how it's absorbed. Like the shift towards long form conversations.
Is the word pontificate ever used in a positive context?
Uh, Probably not. Not these
I've
days,
only
anyway.
I've only heard of anyone pontificating when you're trying to say they're acting douchey. That's the only time. Like I associate like a nose in the air with the word pontificate. You know.
Right, right. Somebody who
It,
gets up on their soapbox and you just want to tell them to shut the hell up.
yeah, yeah, definitely, dude. So I guess I'll have to see. I mean, It's only what, 2 weeks out? They're voting in Florida for whether or not to
less
legalize marijuana.
less than 2 weeks out. Yeah, yeah. Um, I wonder how many states are
It's
left
less
for
than
that.
half.
Like less than half. Yeah, I
Just less
have.
than half.
I've heard an interesting theory that is a little bit concerning, and like there's a dark side and a light side to it. The legalization of marijuana is responsible the for swing states becoming blue states and red states becoming just more blue. And the reason for that is when you consider the mass migration of people from California, and you've seen this with Colorado, Arizona,
Texas,
Washington, to a certain extent,
Austin.
Texas. Yeah, no, absolutely. Oregon and Washington are basically satellites of the state of California. You've seen what's happened to Colorado. A large part of that
Dude,
has to do with the
Denver was a little tough to walk through, dude.
yeah, yeah,
I was a
no,
little
a
disappointed.
big part of that is the legalization of marijuana, which is unfortunate because from our perspective it's just like, yeah, of course you should be free to smoke weed. Like, obviously I believe that, but politically speaking, it makes your state much more welcoming to all the California castaways who bring their shitty voting habits. The bright side to that, on the other hand, is like
I don't know if I.
I don't want that to be true, but I can't help but see the validity in that theory. The silver lining to that, however, is I think you're going to run into the effect of diminishing returns, because obviously as more and more states legalize it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think you run out of, like, obviously there aren't enough Californians to turn the entire country blue, right?
No,
So yeah, I don't know. It's a tough thing. It's a tough thing, but
I think that correlation is not necessarily causation. I don't know. Like Colorado, Colorado is always a liberal state.
no, no, it used to be a red state, dude.
No, well, certain parts of it. Then Denver got built up. Um, the bigger the city, I think it has more of a correlation to how big these cities get. Because then when you have these big universities that are, that are sending their students to the workforce for the first time, a lot of them go to big cities, and the cities that they're going to want to stay in general, become more blue because they're all young, because they're generally younger demographic. So, and then
Yeah,
the
but
further you move outside of the city to more residential or more families, it becomes steadily more red. And so I think that, like, Denver became, I think, a bigger city in the last. I mean, I don't know if it has to do with Colorado legalizing weed as much as like the buildup of the influx of young people in Denver in general. I think probably had a lot more to do with that. And I think you could say that, like, I don't know, not Chicago. Chicago's bad. Illinois is a bad example. Um, I don't know. New York, Jersey, they're all pretty liberal anyway. Oregon was liberal way before they legalized marijuana. So is Washington. No, like all these
well,
places were known to be pretty left leaning places.
um, I don't know, man. I mean, like, Oregon and Washington have. I mean, just take a look at gun control laws, for example. Washington and Oregon used to be pretty lax places. Like, I mean, uh, I remember when I moved here, I remember being floored by how comparatively lax gun control laws were here as opposed to New York and New Jersey. But of course, in the last few years, uh, they passed a few like bans on magazine size, and they've gone after the AR-15. At this point, in a few respects, Washington has more draconian gun laws than California.
Really? But are you grandfathered in because you already have what you have,
I mean, I don't have an AR-15, so like the ones I have
or the
don't
magazines
really.
and stuff?
Yeah, no, that's not really a problem for me. Um, I did think of getting one before the law just to just to spite them, uh, but yeah, no,
How much are they? What do they
oh,
generally cost?
an AR-15.
Yeah, or guns, I guess. But
Oh,
yeah.
well, I mean, there's a big range, but even with AR-15s, actually, I'm the wrong person to ask. I was never really that interested in AR-15s. That that sort of sporting rifle. I don't hate them. I've shot them before. They're perfectly good. They're just not my cup of tea. Uh, one thing I do know, however, like it really depends on what you're looking for, and even within a certain model, there can be a lot of variance. Like you remember when I got my 1911, my automatic pistol.
Um, I I remember the first two or three guns that you bought,
Uh,
and was one of them the pistol?
One of them was the pistol.
Well, do you
The
have a name for her?
yeah. The pistol is that's Candy.
Yes, Candy. I remember Candy vividly. Yes, thank you. I remember now.
With a
Yeah,
1911 like that, you can
Time was not a
my
fan of Candy.
no, it wasn't a. You can I actually that one comes from Rock Island Armory. That's like the cheapest you can get, and they're still very good. Like they are quality 1911s. Like they're not less reliable. Like in the grand scheme of things, they're not. The quality is lower, but that one cost my 1911 cost about $450. But if
Oh
you
wow.
go but if you go out and you look, you can easily find a 1911 that is well upwards of 200,000, $2,500.
What?
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
$200,000?
No. 2000, 2000.
$2,000. Okay, so two
Unless
thousand to 2,500.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, unless you have like Ike Eisenhower's, 1911 that he carried in Europe, that is sure that maybe that can be $200,000. But when you get to it, the difference between a 1911 that's $2,000 versus
Okay, but that's
four
kind of
hundred fifty
reasonable.
dollars.
I could imagine that would be the case. I mean, I don't. Yeah, I can imagine that'd be the case. That there's probably. I'm sure there's even more expensive ones. There's probably ones you could probably get for 5 or 6 grand, right?
Definitely, definitely. Most of it goes into, I would say, two main factors, and there's probably other big factors that I'm not recognizing here, but brand recognition and how much time is spent on a single weapon by the gunsmith. Uh, like when it comes to like little details in each firearm that the gunsmith pays attention to, the difference between $500 and $2,000, you're paying for the gunsmith's time and labor. I think that's the main thing.
And are
But
you
also,
getting a tangible, like a significantly better gun?
it depends on
So,
what you're looking for. If you care about those little differences, like I mean,
like, what would they be, for example?
for example, if you were to look at the trigger on my pistol versus the trigger of a Springfield Armory, a 1911 that's like $2,500, the trigger on mine is they're the same. They're the same shape. They have the same. They have virtually the same pull to them. But you'll notice that the finish on mine is like it's very bare bones. There is the edges are pretty sharp. It looks my pistol looks well.
It looks generic.
It's hard to articulate this in a way that makes a lot of sense. Like versus the more expensive pistol, you can see how the gunsmith probably sanded down the edges of the sharp edges of the trigger assembly so
Right.
that things were smoother. And the tactile feel of everything from the grip to the trigger itself, if you pay attention to those, if those things matter to you, then it's absolutely worth the extra money. Uh, but if it's not, then of course you have the option of something like my piece.
Right, right. I was at this Irish pub like a month ago, and the guy that was sitting at the bar next to me told me that. By the way, side note, I'm gonna get a Guinness tap installed in my house right before Thanksgiving. So when I start drinking beer again, I'm gonna have Guinness on tap. Um, I have a friend. I asked ChatGPT the most oh man, economic way to build to build a Guinness tap at home, and I have a friend that's handy and loves to do this kind of stuff. So I'll buy the material and he'll just put it together.
Nice. Is it going to be? Are you just going to get a kegerator and a can of nitro, or is it going to be like something you incorporate into like a counter? Like, are you actually going to?
Oh, I think it's going to be a kegerator unless I go to like Facebook Marketplace or Home Goods or something and I find just like a piece of furniture to put over it or something like that, you know? Um, I don't know. I haven't thought that. I haven't thought about that. I feel like
Okay.
it'll look way nicer like in the in the furniture, right? As a piece of furniture.
Sure, sure. A kegerator can be a little bit fratty if it's not a if it's not like
not
a
not
nice
appropriate for
sleek tap handle that comes out of the woodwork. Yeah, no, it can maybe not what you want.
right. What was I saying before that? Because I promised myself I wouldn't get sidetracked, and I did.
You got sidetracked. You went to an Irish pub.
Oh, yes. And the guy mentioned to me that, or the guy at the bar was mentioning that he was flying with a work friend of his for a convention, um, which I think is one of the dumber things that people fly for in general, but I don't know. And he said they had a couple of hours to kill before their flight because it got delayed. So he went to the hotel. He went to the hotel bar, and his friend went to the shooting range. And they wouldn't let his friend shoot alone in Florida. This is in by West Palm, I think. They wouldn't let him go to the shooting range alone because they're afraid that he was going to commit suicide, apparently. And for insurance, they couldn't let people shoot by themselves. Do you ever
Okay.
hear of anything like that?
No, not here. Not
Not
here.
in Washington. I never heard that before.
Not in Washington. Not in New York. That is
It
pretty
doesn't.
weird.
It doesn't sound like it makes sense, right? Unless the place had a one-off incident, and then in order to maintain their insurance or their license, they just couldn't that could be almost like a strike point, like a strike system.
Right. I guess that would make the most sense.
That's what I was telling him. I was like, dude, I was like, something must have happened at at shooting range, where like the insurance company said we're not going to insure you, or like the state said, you know, you can't continue unless you take extra safety measures. It's really crazy,
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty uh, things we do for insurance, I guess.
dude. I If I didn't have a kid that goes to the doctor every couple of months, I would not have health insurance. Like, I would not have health insurance. I'm paying like $800 a month. It gives me like I think like a $7,000 or $8,000 deductible, and I go to the doctor every 3 to 5 years.
Yeah,
It's
it's
so stupid, dude.
yeah. I wish I was intimately familiar with the industry of insurance, so I could shit on it even more.
Are you are you going back to New York for Thanksgiving again this year?
Yeah, yeah, actually, yeah. I'm gonna be there for pretty much all of Thanksgiving week. From God, I forget the date because like this week, this year, what is it? November. Yeah, yeah. Oh no, hold on a second. Is it 20? It's the fourth week. Yeah, this year it's the 28th of November, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I'm gonna be there pretty much from I think yeah, I'm gonna be there from the 22nd to like the 2nd of December. So
Oh, sweet.
I'll be there for a little bit. Yeah.
Dude, you should consider coming down to Florida for a day or two.
Ooh.
Come on
Ano-
down. Come. I
Another
mean,
flight.
another flight. It's a 2 hour flight. It's much easier, dude.
Yeah, no, you're
Especially,
right. It's a 2 hour flight.
it's a 2 hour flight. Dude, since I had a kid, I cannot. I can't travel with my family. I can't travel in general. So if there's ever an odd off occasion where I get to fly by myself to like, New York, and I get like those 2 hours on an airplane by myself, dude, it is the best thing in the entire world. It's like my phone's on airplane mode. I'm just sitting there with a complete stranger either watching a movie, or if I'm on a United flight, I play the ball breaking game. What's it called? Um, you know what I'm talking about? Where you shoot
Uh,
the ball, brick break. You shoot the
oh,
ball at the
Breaker.
bricks.
Yeah, yeah.
I could play brick break for 2.5 hours straight on my flight. But I'm like, the second I sit down to the second the plane lands, I'm just playing straight. But it's so wonderful to just have like a 2 hour flight by yourself.
Yeah, you know what I can't understand? I remember a few years ago I was flying to Israel. That it's the flight to Israel
That
is
flight
rough.
blows.
That flight it blows, and I cannot understand how people with small children, especially infants, do that flight.
Yeah,
I'm
dude.
not even talking about like from my standpoint where it's like I have to listen to a crying baby. After a certain point I just have to wonder, it's like, how are you doing this?
Yeah, dude.
How are you really like, oh, we're just gonna take the whole family to Israel and we have a 9 month old. I don't
Dude,
understand it.
people do it, man. It doesn't make any sense to me. I have no idea how. I have no idea how. I told my friend, my buddy of Rummy just got engaged a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
and I told him, I'm like, dude, he's like, I'm so excited for the whole family to come to the wedding. I'm like, dude, my whole family's not coming to the wedding. Like, I'm coming to the wedding. I'm like, my kid, my one and a half, my two, he'll be two by the time he gets married. Like, my 2 year old is not going to be on a 12-hour flight twice in like 4 days for your stupid wedding, dude. He's not going to remember. I was like, I love you, and I'm going to come to it. I was like, but no chance am I bringing my family to Israel for your wedding, man. It's not happening. Yeah. I hope you didn't take that too personally.
No, I'm sure not. You should tell me what the venue is when you get the invitation. So I probably won't, obviously, but just so I have the opportunity to crash it.
I think you should, dude. When's the last time you've been to Israel?
When was the last time I visited Avrami? Avrami?
Well,
Probably around the
you,
same time. Probably within the same year, to be honest with you. It wouldn't surprise me. It's been a long time since I've seen Avrami, or
wait,
been
what
to
Avrami?
Israel for that matter. Are we
Which Avrami
talking
are you
about this?
talking about?
Are we talking about the same Avrami?
I don't know. I was talking about a friend of
Uh,
Avrami Kroll.
yeah, 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 yeah. Avrami.
When have you ever visited him in Israel?
No, no, no. I didn't visit him in Israel, but I have seen him. You know, we've hung out together.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm mentioning it to you because I knew that you know him.
Yeah, I've
So
never
when's the
seen.
last time you were in Israel? I was
The
asking.
last time I was in Israel. I want to say, ooh, I want to say like 2019. I think I
Oh,
went on
nice.
20. I think I went 20. It was 2019. Yeah, I don't know because we. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it was like smack dab in the middle of the pandemic, and I think we went to. I think we went to Israel for Pesach. Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
didn't?
I think that was
You
it.
did? You didn't go
Yeah.
to the Azores that year?
No, no. Oh, damn it! Now I'm confusing things. I think it might have been 2018 Pesach. I think it was
No,
that.
Azores. You were still in Binghamton, I think. I
No, no, no,
remember.
no,
I
no, no.
remember visiting Binghamton and you telling me about it.
Really? Oh, damn.
Unless
See,
you went in between
this
Binghamton and
is.
Seattle.
I think this. I think it might have been that. Yeah, dude. It's so. Dude, I'm. This is what it's like to get to be an old man now. It's just
Yeah,
like
I love it, dude.
when did I do that? I remember doing these things. It was just like, what year was that? What year was that
Dude,
when I
it
did it?
blows me away. It blows me away how I feel like our parents' generation, they know every year of every event that happened in their lives. Like I'll be talking to my dad, and like, oh yeah, I went to a Springsteen concert. It was the tour of 1984. I'm like, what? He was like, oh yeah, when I was graduating high school in 1980, like 80, I had to stop and I have to think about what year I graduated high school. Like I have no concept of like how old I was my what year it was the first time I went to a concert.
Yeah,
Like I,
like my mom gets so angry at me when I can't remember dates for some reason. It's just like, oh, remember when we went to the Boston Science Museum? It's like, yeah, of course I remember. I think it was like, what was it, like 1993? It's like it's like you were barely born in 1993. What the hell are you talking about?
right, yeah, dude. But they know, man. It was some. I think there was something. I think as that generation grew up, probably with more news, and so they were probably more aware as to like. I think they're more culturally aware, or like just more. I think they're more aware growing up than we are today.
Um, it's possible. It's
Like
possible.
I think they follow the news more. Like as like young as younger kids. I think there's more events happening. Our parents growing up at least my parents were growing up in the '80s. Actually, the '80s nothing was really going on. What was going on in the '80s? We were out of Vietnam. Was it Korea?
We were out of Vietnam. The oh jeez,
I don't think
great
anything
great
happened in the
metal.
'80s. There's a lot of
Oh no
bad
no no!
music.
There was great metal. There was AIDS. There was cocaine. There was
That's late '80s already.
well yeah, but no, I mean there was MTV. Uh,
Oh shit!
there was
MTV started in the
MTV.
'80s.
It started in well,
Oh God.
or did it start in 19? At the earliest, it started 1979.
Do you think the '80s were worse than 2000 to 2010?
No, I think the 80s was the last time we had a real country.
You think so?
I think so, dude. I think
Yeah. Then what were the '90s were weird too.
a lot of the
The '90s was like
like
hip hop.
the 90s was hip hop, but like in terms of like a broad cultural context, I think when it comes to people talk about like how, oh, kids today, like everybody gets a participation trophy and everything is
Oh
so
God.
woke and all the DEI and all this stuff. All that stuff started in the 90s.
No, it
Like
didn't. The
it started
'90s?
it started to take root in the 90s. It was like things were like we were still kind of
Yeah,
think
I got participation trophies, dude, for sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, like I think a lot of that stuff started in the 90s, or at least it was taking root. It wasn't easily it wasn't as easy to see, like it wasn't manifesting as clearly, like if you weren't paying attention, because I think things were still pretty good the way they were in the late 80s, and I think that's why things like kind of crept up on us, like to the point where it's like, oh, what happened, like the 90s were so great and now it's like 2016 and the whole world it has gone mad, like what
Right.
happened. It's like, well, it's not just 9/11, but a lot of things have been happening underneath the surface.
Sure. 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 Definitely. But I think we're turning a corner. I really do. I
Yeah,
really think
yeah.
it really feels like we're turning a corner, and I'm really excited about it. Um, and my general, it's so interesting. I started another indication that I'm becoming an old man, is that I get very emotional about patriotic things now. Uh, um,
Yeah.
like I'll watch at a basketball game, like I'll watch like the national anthem, and I'll tear up, dude. I'll be like, man, like this is beautiful, like this is so nice, beautiful ideals, and I'm like, ah, I love America, like. And then I realize I'm at like the Heat game, and it's like like preseason, I get so like I get so I was watching the movie Miracle. Remember that movie, the hockey movie Miracle on Ice?
I've heard of it, but I don't think I've ever seen it.
It's definitely worth watching. It's an amazing movie, and you'll enjoy it because the movie is a hockey movie, but it's about it's an American cultural landscape movie. It was the 19 I think 80 American Olympic hockey team, and at the time, national morale was just cratering. and then the coach took his team. They stopped. They weren't using professional hockey players at the time, for whatever reason. And then they got a college coach to take a bunch of college students, from around the country, and train them in like 6 months, and to play the Russians, who I think won the gold every year for the last like 20 years. Um, but the movie goes into the American culture, and there's one scene in the movie where it's Christmas Eve, and all the guys are having a football catch outside in the snow, and the coach is driving home, and the president's speaking, and the president's saying, how for the first time, in like American history, the polls indicate that people believe the next 4 years is going to be worse than the previous 4 years. And we were such a hopeful country for so long, and we always just kept on feeling like things like we're just going to just keep on getting places, and then we just at a certain point we just plateaued. We just stopped feeling like things were going to be optimistic and hopeful. And but I think that right now I'm getting that experience myself. I really feel that way.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think um, when it comes to the sort of patriotism you talk about, where you start to get emotionally moved at the national anthem in a hockey game, I definitely get that. Um, for me, it's like mostly when I sit and I think like it could be like it usually comes after I go on a stint of reading some sort of like uh, uh, reading something that has a lot to do with like political philosophy and how important liberty is. Like it could be,
That too,
the
dude. It's incredible.
yeah, that too. Like it could be the Constitution or the Federalist Papers or the Philippics of Cicero. Uh, but yeah, like when it comes to the sort of worry that one can feel about the ideas that are espoused in these books and how they're being tossed aside by, you know, ignorant and reckless at best and malevolent at worst individuals within our political system. And the fact that, for a while it felt like there was no true alternative to the direction in which things have been going for the past few decades.
Yeah,
The
it
fact that
really felt like that.
now the fact that now it really does feel like there's an alternative. I definitely
Yeah,
I definitely get
it
what you
feels
mean.
like it feels like freedom exists. It feels like it really does. It's really cool. It really
It
feels like liberty exists right now.
it feels like we have the capacity to preserve it, more
Yeah,
importantly.
yeah. And to me that's the definition of hope. Like that's a patriot. I mean that to me, that's like that's why really really. I mean at this point I just I hope that Trump pulls through, that finishes as strong as I think he will, because I think that's like, I think that it's a Trump win is victory is just taking back, like taking two steps back from all the shit that's been piling up for the last 20 years, and giving us a place to kind of like take another step back. Like after him, who are the next people running or, being big in politics? You have Vivek, you have JD Vance, you have again Tulsi, you have some really, really capable, intelligent, good people. Andrew Yang, for people that like him, is very thoughtful and very, very just intelligent in general. Um, I don't know too much about I've heard him speak a little bit, but I've heard from very intelligent people really wonderful things about him. But it just feels like we're almost over this old like bajillion-year old same people making the same policy decisions over and over and over again throughout the last 20-25 years. Like they're gone. Like it feels like they're going to be gone, and like we're just being introduced to a new hopeful generation.
Yeah, no, it definitely feels that way.
I hope so. That'd be great, no?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Uh, I wish I had
But
something to say.
no, that's okay. I was gonna say it's 1:45, so I'm gonna call it now because I'm pretty zonked.
Okay.
Um,
No worries, dude.
but dude, let's. I'm so happy we're doing this again. I didn't get to ask you about your Sukkot, but I'll catch you up. I'll catch up with you offline about that. And think about coming down to Florida, dude.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to. Definitely want to.
Could look into it, dude.
It'll be sooner
I,
than you think.
I, what does that mean? Are you implying anything?
No, no, like you know me. I say like okay, and you're like, all right, sure, it's Sam. So like it'll be eventual, but I'm gonna have to wait a long time. No, I think I think if all goes well. Wait, when's it's hurricane
You got to meet
season
my
now?
kid, dude. No, it's not. Hurricane season just ended,
Okay,
actually.
well then in the meantime, like once I get new PTO, I think sky's the limit. Which
Good,
comes
dude.
after January.
I
After December, that is. I meant.
That's fine. I what do you call it? I have right now it's 73 degrees in my backyard and there's a beautiful breeze in the night and I'm sitting by the pool and I gotta have you out here, dude. I have a fire pit over here now.
Ooh, nice. I gotta
Yeah,
get me
dude.
one of those.
Dude, I've just I haven't even sat by it really. I just kept on lighting them, and then and then just going back inside and just looked like I don't want to smell like it, but I just was so satisfied seeing a fire in my backyard. You know, we're so
No, no,
primitive.
definitely. It's the
Yeah,
wood smell.
it's the woods. Well, it's all yeah, but also I'm a pansy. I get the starter logs. You know the ones that like you just let they
Eh,
stay burning for 3 hours,
it's
dude. You know how
fine.
many chemicals those things have in that?
It's got all the right chemicals.
Yeah, to keep
It's
it burning, but it smells like poison, dude. It's so funny. And Rachel's like, "What's that smell?" I'm like, it's the fire log." I'm like, but don't worry, the chemicals are safe. She's like, "How do you know that?" Like, they wouldn't sell you chemicals that are unhealthy for you. She's like, "Oh yeah, they wouldn't give us food that's unhealthy. They wouldn't give us medicine that's unhealthy." And she starts going off, and she's like, "But the firewood, they're gonna do all their quality homework on that, right? They're gonna make sure the firewood's totally clean."
it's
And I was
the
like, "Gosh, good
it,
heavens!"
it's the combustion equivalent of when you go to get your car detailed and their idea of cleaning is to just spray your seats with scented cleaner so your car just smells like bleach. It's like, "Oh, just spray it with scented cleaner."
Did you watch the Shane Gillis show on Netflix, Tires?
No, no.
Oh, dude, you would love it. You gotta watch. It's short. I think it's 4 or 6 episodes. They're 20 minutes apiece. Um, it's very short. There's only one season right now. They renewed it for season two, so he's writing it.
All
But
right.
you would love it, dude. It is just
I do like Shane Gillis.
dude, it's he gets he has a couple other comedians that are in it with him, and he does he gets a bunch of his buddies, and it's about a kid that works like a doofus kid that gets hired by his dad, who runs a bunch of auto repair shops or mechanic shops, and he just has no idea how to run the business, and so it's just a comedy based on that. It's very very funny.
Yeah, no, no. I'll definitely have to check that out.
Text me after you watch that, dude. Okay? When you watch it and you're like, "Oh, right, he told me to watch this." Text me when you watch it because I want to hear what you think.
All right. All right. I'll let you get to sleep because I know it's almost 2 o'clock in the morning your time.
I know. Got to get up soon with the little man. I'll catch you later, Sam. Thanks for doing this, bud.
Oh, thank you, Effie. It's good to talk to
Love
you,
you,
man.
man.
I'll
Talk
talk
to
to
you
you later.
soon.
Bye.
Bye.